Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Nate, do we have another commission member on Zoom?
Yes. Commissioners Matthews and Yingling are both online.
Okay, we've done our audio check. So move on to item number 3, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. Commissioners, do you have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
None for me.
Okay. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion on the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. 4-0. Item number 4, approval of minutes and the January 25th work session memo. Do we have any additions, corrections, or deletions on those 2 items?
And I'll just mention, since the that January 25th meeting, we didn't have a quorum, so I just typed up a memo just explaining that there was no quorum, so therefore no official meeting, no commission action, and also the fact that former Commissioner Williamson resigned just before that meeting. So that's basically the content of that memo.
Okay, if there's no additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes and to the work session memo, I'd entertain a motion on that one.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of January 11th and the work session memo from January 25th. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. That's 402. Item number 5 is we will go ahead and open up our public hearing.
And I think technically, since I listed it as 6:40, we should probably wait until 6:40. I probably should have put 6:35 on there, but
okay.
I didn't know exactly how long it would take to get started and get through everything. We could.
Well, we've already approved the agenda.
Correct.
So about our only option then is to maybe recess until 6:40.
We probably should technically.
Okay.
Sorry, I apologize for that.
That's okay. We can just go ahead and recess until 6:40 and we'll reconvene and we'll enter into our public hearing. I'll get a drink of water.
Sorry, everyone.
No worries, Nate.
Oh, that's not. I've got 6:40.
Okay, at 6:40, we'll reconvene, open the public hearing for variance 2022-0204 for 10830 Ute Pass Avenue, the Firehouse venue development. And what we'll do is we'll go into do staff report first, and then we'll see if the owners want to comment. Then we'll see if we got any questions for either one of you from the commission, and then we'll ask for public comments.
All right, so this is the long-awaited Firehouse venue development at 10830 Ute Pass Avenue, the old fire station. The Hopper family purchased the property and are attempting to develop it into a venue for receptions, gatherings, things of that nature, correct? Because this is a change of use from that public fire station use to an actual business, we had to look at the zone code and examine a couple of things and make sure things were being developed per code and per zoning. Our current zoning for the B1 business district dictates that a minimum commercial use or a minimum lot size for commercial use is 10,000 square feet. This parcel is listed as 7,700 square feet per the El Paso County assessor's site. And so they're necessary to move past that barrier. The other one is related to dedicated off-street parking. Our current town code does have a formula for different types of uses and how many parking spaces, how many off-street parking spaces should be provided for each commercial use. That this parcel has limited parking space available off-street. So that's another one, another variance required for that. Chair Dixon and I talked about the fact that we're pretty sure that the one result of our land use code update that's going on right now, most likely that minimum 10,000 square feet requirement will be altered or removed altogether, probably down to 5,000 square feet. That along with the fact that most, maybe all other commercial uses in town are on parcels that are under 10,000 square feet. So we feel because of those factors, we talked about just basically charging one variance fee for the application and to analyze both of these issues. The parking is another one where staff is unsure, I should say, if this parking regulation or zoning requirement has been applied regularly to all businesses or changes of use throughout the years. We know that many of the downtown commercial operations do rely on public parking as it is now. And so this development being, an advantageous situation for the town in the form of tax revenue, staff feels like that it's reasonable to assume that customers to this development can use public parking as well. And during the season of paid public parking, it could generate more revenue for the town as well. That's about all the comment I have. I think staff recommends the approval of these variances, and I will hand it over to Chair Dixon.
Did you have any recommended conditions for the approval?
No, well, I'm sorry. We did talk about for the parking situation. I talked to Sherry Hopper about their inclusion of the 2 handicap spaces in front of the building, and then they also have a drop-off zone that is included in the plans that are in the packet tonight. The handicapped parking are not identified on there, but we talked about that as an important inclusion for this. So yes, that was the condition.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for staff? And they, just to confirm, it is currently zone B1, correct?
That is correct. There's a kind of an anomaly in our current zone code that all of the B1 code includes public uses. So that's kind of an anomaly compared to other towns and cities, but that's the way our zoning is right now.
Okay, applicants, this is your turn. If you could move up to the hot seats there and turn on the microphone. And if you could, do you have any comments that you'd like to make to the commission?
The only thing I think is that it's really going to be a beautiful building for the city. It's also going to generate tax dollars for the city, which it being a firehouse all these years has not. If you've driven by it, it looks beautiful. The building, just the outside facade that we've done, it already is just beautiful. I think it's a real asset to the city. We also own lakeside cottages and other properties in the area. So we're trying to make this more of a destination place for people to come. So the parking issue will be not nearly as big of a deal, because I feel that the way we're promoting it, people are going to stay here in town and they're going to park at their Airbnbs or short-term rentals and just walk, which most people do anyway. So,
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicants?
Have you had any discussions with your neighbors as far as have got any feedback?
everyone that has come by has been so excited about it. Victor across the street at Black Bear, he is wanting to kind of team up with us on some things. There's just, we haven't had anyone come by that has not been really excited about the building and the change of use.
Other questions, commissioners? I have one. Some of the prints show a fence in the front.
No, yeah.
No fence.
We're not doing that. The footprint on the property already takes up most of the use. So we're not going to put anything, we at this point, we're just going to put the handicap spots and a drop off. And that's about it.
Okay. So commissioners, again, any questions, comments? If not, do we have any public questions, comments? About
Doesn't look
anyone
like-
on Zoom?
No raised hands, no indication of any comment online.
Okay, with that, commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
And so, sorry, just to clarify, the action should take place in the next item. So we should close down the public hearing and
Thank
then
you,
we'll
Nate.
move to the actual item for
Okay.
action.
Thank you for keeping me in line. So yeah, this ends the public hearing. Back to your regular seats if you want.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is public comment. Did we have anyone signed up for public comment?
No, I didn't have any signed up.
Okay, so then moving on to new business, item 7A, variance application 2022-0204, 10830 UPass Avenue, Firehouse venue. Since we've already had questions and answers, I would go ahead and entertain a motion on this.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the variances with the parking conditions that Nate has outlined.
Okay,
Second,
it's been moved and seconded that we approve the variance based with the conditions of the parking that Nate has previously discussed. Any discussion on the board? I mean, the commission? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Pass 4-0.
And just to
Um,
clarify, so there will be another public hearing at the board. So public notice of that public hearing will be posted. And then at the board meeting on March 1st, I guess. So that would be the next opportunity for a public hearing there. So they make the final determination of the variance approval or disapproval. So I'll keep you posted.
And we got one more item for you. Moving on to item 7B, permit 2022-0203, 10830 UPass Avenue for zoning and architectural review.
Yeah, so this is the main application for the development. The plans, as I indicated in the report, the plans submitted are a little bit more complicated, or quite a bit more complicated, I should say, than what is actually happening. The front fencing and the overhang / deck that are indicated on those plans are no longer part of the plan. They had some developers that were working on it that they but then changed course and didn't want to do another full set of plans until this is essentially approved by the town, the variances and all that stuff. The only addition to the footprint is some fire escape stairs on the kind of the southeast side of the building. And those are shown in the site plan to scale. There's no concern for setback with those stairs. Everything else pretty much will be submitted to Pikes Peak Regional for electrical, plumbing. They've talked to El Paso County about septic. And so staff feels that they've checked all the boxes, and as long as those variances are approved by the board, then everything's set to move forward as far as the town is concerned.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any questions, comments for staff?
Can you give us the page number where the change is shown with the stairs? I'm having trouble finding out, or the
Measurements.
title at the bottom.
The measurements themselves. It's, can you see my screen?
Yes, sorry.
No, that's okay. I would just want, it is a little faint here, but basically this is an ILC or a survey document. And then kind of where my the rectangle is here, the stairs were just basically drawn on using the same scale as the survey document there. So there's 10.2 feet between the building and the that property line, and then the stairs being 5 feet then clears the setback. Did that answer your question?
It does, yes, thank you.
Any other questions, comments from commissioners? Do you have any additional? Okay. If there's no additional questions or comments, go ahead and entertain a motion.
Yeah, I recommend we approve 2022, 203.
Yep.
That's it.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Been moved and seconded. Do we approve permit 2022-0203 for 10830 UPass Avenue? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I heard Sean. Paul, did I hear Lamar?
yes.
Okay. Me too. Motion passes.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, we'll get one more meeting. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
You might check with the UPass Historical Society for the park as well. They have a lot of maps.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Yeah, I'll be in touch. You're welcome. I'll see you later. Yep, see you.
Okay, moving on to item 7C, permit 2022-0207 for 10375 UPass Avenue, a shed for the spring. And we will proceed on the staff report on that.
Okay, if I can get this up. So moving across the street then from this firehouse. So many of you have noticed probably there's a spring that has sprung in the street. Well, not in the street, but on the property of the Blackberry Distillery. And the town has been somewhat involved with Mr. Matthews there, trying to figure out a long-term solution for the spring. CSU was involved in testing it to make sure it was not septic or dirty water in any way. And it is appears to be a natural spring. Unfortunately, it has caused some icing over of the roadway there and some challenges for the town. So it's been a little bit of a cooperative effort. So Mr. Matthews approached the town about building a shed, although we've received somewhat conflicting information. The initial email I received, which is included here in the packet, talks about this as a semi-permanent semi-permanent structure, 12 by 16. And the way Victor talked about it was kind of a temporary solution until a more long-term solution is figured out. However, I must admit, when I was reviewing this, I kind of just had the whole shed idea in my head, and I didn't really analyze the drawing or even this this point here in the description. But basically, the structure is not just a shed, it's a proposal to add on to the actual wall of the front wall of the Black Bear Distillery, as you can see here, and further change 2 windows that are here into a doorway to access this shed area. So I guess I've conflict. I want to create a solution for this, but I also think that because the proposal has a connection to the current structure, it's not simply a shed, it's a modification to the structure. I also have concerns that coming 16 feet out from the front of the Black Bear does put it most likely in the setback. So my recommendation would be to, if this is approved, it would be a temporary solution with a definite expiration date. Otherwise, I think that this should be rethought and possibly even needing to go through Pikes Peak Regional, as well as having an ILC or something to measure it in relation to the right-of-way boundary.
Okay, just my quick comment. You mentioned onto the front. The front is actually where it's kind of showing as the sidewalk. And so this building, I believe, is off to the side.
Oh, I see. Yeah, what you're saying now. Gotcha. Okay, so disregard my front setback comments.
And then
So that's correct. If anyone couldn't hear Todd, I apologize. I was looking at this wrong here. So this, where it says sidewalk, this would actually be the street side. Okay, so I apologize for that. But however, this is clearly showing connection to the existing structure. So I guess that's the situation up for discussion.
okay, question, don't our accessory buildings have to meet pretty much the same standards for the town that like modifications to homes or structures?
Yes, that's correct for the town. Yes. And Pikes Peak has they do have a limit. It's under 300 square feet, I believe, where Pikes Peak Regional doesn't care. But since this is showing to be attached to the structure with windows being removed in lieu of a door, then I think that it kind of is getting into a dwelling, or a main structure modification.
Yeah, where I was going was if the town requirements are the same, does it really matter? Because I agree, I think we need to try to look and try to find some way to try to help out with the water coming across the road.
Sorry, what's the question?
Well, what I'm thinking of is accessory buildings, if they have to basically meet the same standards, then there's really no difference between having an accessory building versus having, basically a modification to the structure, as far as the town goes. And so, is it something we need to
Yeah, I think that's correct. I guess the question is, should the town approve this and not recommend Pikes Peak Regional involvement? Because, yeah, the town can say per architectural and zoning standards, yes, everything appears to be met, but if the structure, if it's not a standalone structure as defined by Pikes Peak Regional, then, and it's modifying a current structure, then we should maybe approve it pending or contingent on this going through Pikes Peak Regional for structural
But if they
inspection.
if they don't deal with anything under, what was it, 400?
It's either 300 or 200 square feet. But if it's not an accessory structure, if it's adding on to the main
Okay, so
structure.
that's just for accessory structures that they have that limitation.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm kind of wondering if we, there's a couple options that I'm seeing. One is the temporary time limited, basically approval that you mentioned. Or we could put a condition. The other option would be to put a condition of coordination with Pikes Peak Regional.
I would say that I would suggest that, it could be a staff asking Pikes Peak Regional, it could be, but usually, the burden of that is on the applicant.
Right.
I would feel more comfortable knowing that, that it, if that existing structure is being modified, that I would feel much more comfortable with Pikes Peak.
With the time, you'd be more comfortable with the time limited?
Well, I don't know that if it's time limited and they're taking out windows and putting in a door, and then I don't know that that's going to go back ever to the way it is. I feel like Pikes Peak needs to be. Right. That's what I feel like it is. Yes. And if you didn't hear it, just clarifying what Commissioner Ives was saying is that, yes, I feel like it's more of an addition to the structure than an accessory building as was initially described.
I mean, we have another option, which would be to postpone. We could also do that. I don't know, commissioners' thoughts.
Nate, if we did a time limit situation, what would be your recommendation of a time limit? And I don't know, it makes more sense to me to get Pikes Peak Regional involved, because at some point they're probably going to have to become involved anyway. The temporary piece would just be because we got water running across the road and we need some kind of stopgap. So I think we should be really clear in the temporary what can be done and then what they need to do, to engage with Pikes Peak Regional. Sorry, rambling non-question here.
No, and that was my the way it was initially presented was, and even in that description, it says what does it say here? It is minimal size, semi-permanent and fast, but to me, if you're significantly modifying that, it's not easily put back to normal. But the way it was initially brought up to the town was, yes, it's a stopgap measure for the winter to prevent freezing of pumps and pipes and things like that. But I think that could be done maybe in a different way as an actual accessory structure, like a shelter essentially for the spring area without tapping into the main building. So I don't know, I guess I'm just, and unfortunately Victor couldn't make it tonight. But so I think that there's definitely more questions that need to be addressed or approve it pending Pikes Peak Regional involvement.
Yeah, sitting there thinking about it, I'm not too thrilled with the temporary because they'd cut structure. And then, what do you do if things kind of go south, so to speak?
Yeah, maybe hard to enforce or deal with later on.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say they could do a temporary solution that doesn't cut anything, but I'm not sure how you achieve that. So rather than having them wait a month and deal with this thing running across the road, it probably, I guess my motion would be to, how would we do this? Approve as long as they have Pikes Peak involved.
And I should also add, this started in around Christmas time, like right after Becky started, I think. And so it's been going on. It's been improved via a drainage, a pipe that's been put across the road with some protective. It's basically a speed bump now with the pipe within it. So it's draining better now into the drain across the street. So I feel like it's a situation that's been going on. The situation hasn't changed terribly. And in fact, it's slightly improved from it the way it was initially when it was just draining and creating a big ice patch across the road. So,
Okay, Lamar, I thought I heard you make a motion. Could you repeat that motion?
I probably need some help with it, but basically my motion is to approve their quote spring house with the involvement of Pikes Peak Regional to whatever extent, if that means engineering, if that means whatever it means, but to get Pikes Peak Regional involved to create this shed. Do we call it a shed? It's not freestanding. So addition to the structure.
Okay, Lamar has moved. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the spring house contingent on the involvement of Pikes Peak Regional Building Department. Did I get that correct? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 No.
We have a no. Who was the no?
Yes, we did. Sean did a no.
Commissioner Ives had a nay, and we're waiting on Chair Dixon's decision.
I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote yes.
Yes, you said?
Yeah.
All right, motion passes
Motion passes.
3-1.
So yeah, well, they'll need to coordinate with Pikes Peak Regional. But I would like to see something done to help get the condition on the road, help that get cleared up.
I'll let Victor know tomorrow and follow up.
Okay. And if he needs to come back, then we can always come back.
Sounds good.
Okay. Item 7 Delta, permit 2022-0107 on 11190 Hondo Avenue. We'll go ahead and staff report on that one.
All right, so this is that deck it's a deck replacement application for 11190 Hondo Avenue. This is the one that Lamar or Commissioner Matthews brought to our attention a while back. There was a stop work put on it by Pikes Peak Regional and also from Marshall Hodges. And since then, the applicant has came in, paid, done what is needed to be done from the town's perspective, at least for this deck. We have reached out to Pikes Peak Regional, just questioning, what all they can do to make sure that other work isn't being done improperly. And basically the answer is, it's the owner's responsibility to do what they need to do to make things right. And we've asked them to check into it as much as they can. So, but regarding the deck, this is the first step to make it right. And I've reached out to the applicant to make sure they understand that this is not, the town's approval is not approval for them to continue work, but it's the first step in them making the situation right. And they still need to follow up with Pikes Peak Regional for the proper inspections and all the structural information that is needed. So that is kind of ongoing back and forth right now, but at least for the town review purposes, it is basically a replacement of the same style and footprint of deck as was on before. And as far as this application goes, they have submitted all things necessary essentially to move forward with the town.
Okay. Question, what were the materials again?
Right. Basically it's wood, kiln dried wood, all throughout.
Okay, commissioners, questions, comments to staff?
I have a comment on this. If we approve this, I would like it to be approved with the condition that they work with Pikes Peak Regional, even though you've mentioned that they are. They've already poured their posts, piers, and they've set the posts. I question that any of the piers or posts will pass Pikes Peak's inspection. They're not centered. Some are at the back, some are at the front, some are on the side. I'm not sure they have the right grade depth. Don't know if they included rebar like they were supposed to. At what point does Pikes Peak Regional check all that work that was never permitted, but yet done?
Once they submit plans, which they have not submitted plans yet to Pikes Peak, then it just goes through their process for inspections and sign off. And so all we can do is really kind of approve it based on our review process. And then, I can follow up with Pikes Peak Regional. I will further research. I don't know really what penalty or what, course of action the town or Pikes Peak Regional takes if work keeps resuming. I don't really know that, so I'll have to figure that out. But basically it is in the hands of Pikes Peak Regional to do all those inspections and bring it up to code.
Yeah, I know they can do multiple stop orders if needed.
Yeah. So basically we just need to kind of keep eyes on it, and then I can keep communicating with Pikes Peak Regional about what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, come on up. So people on Zoom can hear you.
I think, yeah. if
Either
you
one,
sit there
either one of
and
those. Yeah.
Press the button on top.
And if you would state your name and address.
My name is Paul Kavanaugh, and we are the owners of 1190 Hondo Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
Just to give you a little background, we're new owners. We recently purchased the Bracken's old place. And, we've been doing some improvements. And one of the things we realized when we got there is the deck was kind of shaky and some of the boards were rotten and need to be replaced. And we were told of a local contractor that had been used, he's been doing porches and stairs around the city or town for most of the summer. And we finally got his attention, hopefully to replace some of the boards that were to reinforce it or do something to make it so it wasn't dangerous or as shaky as it was. Anyway, he came and looked at it and determined that, you're probably going to have to replace the deck. Us being new here did not know that the permit was needed. Also because this person had been building decks and porches and stairs around town that just assumed, I guess, that this person was familiar with how the process went. Apparently we were wrong because we did receive, we were notified by the deputy or the contractor was, we weren't there at the time, that, we're given the stop work permit because there had been a complaint filed against the work that was going on. So at this point, I've looked into the Pikes Peak Regional Authority's requirements, and much of what's done is not going to satisfy that code. So at where we are now is, we've since reached out to, to an engineer to find out what the specifics are, other contractors. And at the point we are now is, we're about 80% of the way through it. And when we were notified of this is, what do we do now? Do we just have to tear it over and start from scratch? And I think that the best thing I could do now, and I don't know the process, is to have Pikes Peak look at it and say, all right, the deck part of it is potentially salvageable, or do we just have to tear everything over and start from scratch all over again? So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're hoping that just maybe there's advice or what you guys think maybe would be the best bet for us to do to proceed.
With my opinion, if you've got to engage engineering potentially may have to do, you're not real sure about whether you may have to scrap quite a bit. That could affect some of your links and some of the setback. Most of what we do is setbacks in here, and architectural reviews. But if you're going to have something where you could potentially change the footprint, and it sounds like to me like you have a potential for a high probability of a change in footprint, maybe.
No, the footprint is exactly the same.
Footprint's going to be
Dimensions
exactly
are
the same.
the same.
And I'm not sure how you really know that if you have to engage engineering in Pikes Peak Regional, because they may come in and what may happen is because of whatever they require of you, it could affect the dimensions.
I actually just received new drawings today, and they're still exactly the same dimensions.
Okay.
The footprint is the same. They're much more detailed, of course. And engineering comes involved. One of the commissioners spoke of is the footers. That's the biggest part of it, is how the footers are placed. Some of it is rock, some of it is dirt. As far as like verifying if there was rebar put into the rock, that's something we cannot verify and don't know. So just based on that, that's probably something that would have to be redone. And I guess at this point, I didn't know if I could get Pikes Peak involved. I think from a setback perspective or a footprint perspective, which sounds like what you guys do, that hasn't really changed. So it's really more on the Pikes Peak details of this. Really, I don't know if we can say, hey, Pikes Peak, can you come look at this? And
you would just have to submit the plans just as you are starting a new project, basically. So on their website, they have a portal to submit plans. Yeah. Okay. So, I haven't seen those come because I have a dashboard and I don't see those on there yet. So there may be a day or two delay, but after you submit them, I don't know exactly how long it takes for them to post all that, but once you enter into that process, then they have inspections that take place, and you fill out forms, structural forms that are much more detailed than what the town requires for that. So
It's gonna be through the county, that they're gonna set you on the path for the inspections and whatnot. They'll tell you if you're. Welcome down.
Right. It is what it is. Yes, I understand.
Test. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, commissioners, any additional questions or comments?
Hey, Todd, this is Paul. Just a comment. It seems to me that our task is relatively narrow, which is to determine if the applicant submission is in accordance with the town code, specifically looking at issues like setbacks and footprints. And it's not really our role to, penalize any previous conduct or investigate the design. It's to apply the code. And it seems to me we should stick to that task.
If we don't have the plans yet, how can we make a judgment? After engineering gets through with it, as our chair mentioned, it may change. So if we don't have that yet, how can we make a judgment?
Well, if we don't have the information, then obviously we can't make the judgment. But my only point is that let's stick to the narrow task that the town code provides for us.
one suggestion I can make is that once the plans are submitted to Pikes Peak and I can see them, if the footprint or any of the major design elements are different than what's been submitted here, we could potentially revisit that, so maybe it could be approved contingent on there not being a major change to the footprint or anything that would put setbacks and.
Like you said, if we approve something and the footprint changes, now they are out of compliance.
Right.
And there are provisions in the code for things that are done out of compliance. So yeah, that avenue is always open to us. Now we may have to get, something we would have to have some evidence that would potentially drive us to go down the non-compliance path, but we do have that capability.
The plans are the same as the ones that you submitted.
They're much more detailed.
They're right, of course.
Same.
So we know they've been submitted. What we don't know is whether Pikes Peak Regional has approved those yet. So that's the piece we don't know. Or if they're going to come back to them and tell them to do something different.
Well, structurally, the Pikes Peak takes care of all that, the engineering, the structural determination and inspections and all that. So our,
right, but what we don't know is if Pikes Peak's going to come back and say structurally, it's going to have to be this different footprint or whatever. That's the piece we don't know yet.
Right, but we don't know that ever really, because we approve the plan, but we don't approve the structure itself. We don't follow through on inspections. So it's really no different than most deck applications. The only question is whether or not the footprint is significantly different between the plans that I have and the plans that Pikes Peak has. That's why I mentioned I could keep an eye on that. It potentially could be approved just contingent on the fact that the footprint is the same or within, whatever, a foot or whatever, you want to say. But that's one option that I can do to follow up to get it moving. I suppose the other option would be to table it and look at the actual plans that are submitted to Pikes Peak Regional.
Nate, we would not
Either way,
do
the
that for
time
any
frame.
other application, would we?
I'm
Say
sorry,
again,
what,
Paul?
Paul?
My point is, we wouldn't do that for any other application, right? We don't investigate. We approve a applicant submission, and if the applicant sends something different to Pikes Peak, then they're out of variance. We have to go back and reapprove the new plan. But we don't. My only point is that let's treat this applicant like every other applicant, and follow the exact same process we follow for every other applicant before us.
Right, I agree. The only difference is usually we have the same plans that Pikes Peak is seeing, because usually the process is started at about the same time. There's usually not a change in plan, or between the two processes.
So normally we're looking, we can see what was submitted to Pikes Peak and currently we cannot. That's the difference.
Right, so it just might be a matter of time, and I can certainly follow up on that.
So we
Either way.
could approve this plan, right, or approve this application based on the plan before us. And if it changes or if it's different than what's before Pikes Peak, then we have to reconvene and go back. But otherwise, the applicant can go forward. Is that right?
Correct.
I don't think it, in this case, though, it's going to hold the applicant up in any way, because he still has to go through the process with Pikes Peak Regional. I mean, us approving it or tabling it or whatever is not going to make any difference in your process right now.
Because he's in his process with Pikes Peak currently.
Yeah. So we could actually wait till we see the plans. It's not going to hold you up, is my point.
They happen at the same time.
That's
Yeah,
correct, yeah.
basically, they're the ones that are going to have to decide whether they need to inspect your stuff and all that. And us waiting to see the plans that were submitted, it's not going to hold you up. That's my point.
Right, so, yeah, so we could table it until the next meeting if you want to see the exact plans and how they may or may not differ from the plan that I have in front of us.
Do you foresee that holding up your process at all?
I guess from my perspective, I guess I didn't know that this was Pikes Peak. I didn't know they were separate. I thought that was like you guys approved it and then they did it.
It's a concurrent process. So basically before they will approve anything, finally, they have to have the town's stamp of approval on it. But the Pikes Peak process takes much longer than the town's process.
Right.
So by the time that they, like, say a month from now, the next meeting of the planning commission, they're probably not going to be through their entire process, if that makes sense. So if we stamped it tomorrow, or if we stamped it a month from tomorrow, you're probably still going to be in the Pikes Peak process.
I guess from my perspective, if Pikes Peak needs you to approve it first,
Not first.
they don't. So that has nothing to do with, okay.
Right.
Because that really my biggest thing right now is, and maybe you're right, is I would like to get someone from Pikes Peak to come out and say, look, you got to start over, or you can salvage some of this. That's really where I'm at. The footprint hasn't changed at all at all. The dimensions are exactly the same. It's really just, that's where I'm at. So as far as what you guys decide to do, I mean, that is what it is.
Mhm.
You guys know better than I as how this would impact the path forward.
It seems like some of the commissioners would like to see the finished footprint as it's submitted to Pikes Peak Regional.
So in other words, I have to get them to approve it first, because I don't know if I can keep the original what's there now until they look at it.
You don't need to submit it they don't need to approve it first. You just need to get it into their system, or give me the same set of plans that you're giving to them. I just need to see those
No,
plans.
they were given these.
But I thought you just said they have a different set of
No,
plans that are
it's-
much more
I
detailed.
just received these today because we made a contingent plan, like, all right, if we do got to tear the whole thing down, or whatever we can do, or whoever the new subcontractor has decided, we can salvage some of it. I don't know if we could do that in, without Pikes Peak, or with, I would just prefer to have Pikes Peak somehow inspect it to say, and then I could go to the contractor, can we save the decking portion of it and we need to redo the posts? You know, that's kind of where I'm at now. I realize there's the footprint won't change, but the structural aspects of it will likely change. And I would just want to find out if I can tell the new subcontractor, like, okay, I got the drawings, what you have, can you salvage the deck part of it? Or some portion of it so that, you know, I can try to salvage something of what was.
Yeah.
What was already.
So to me, it sounds like you need to somehow get Pikes Peak Regional kickstarted.
Yes.
And that may be with submitting the plans through their portal.
And my understanding, my wife did the submission, who you met, Amanda. I thought she said she had already approved it. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here, but submitted it to Pikes Peak. Unless there was some issue with her submittal, it didn't go through. I thought that they had this information already. So.
Yeah, usually once you submit something and it kickstarts the system, what I don't know is can you call them if you've already submitted something, got basically a number, however they track it. If you can call them up, say, hey, can we request a inspection off of what we currently have? I don't know that. That would have to be something with Pikes Peak Regional. But it sounds like, you at least sent things in to get things kickstarted. Now it's a matter of getting them engaged to be able to do what you need to have done.
And I get notifications every day about what's on the Pikes Peak portal for Green Mountain Falls, and it's not on there. So
Understood.
So commissioners, do we have a motion on the table?
I move we table it until it shows up on the portal. And we understand fully that Pikes Peak is involved.
Hey, Sean, I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we table permit 2022-0107 until the final plans can be submitted to us. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. I think that's your best bet. Get engaged with them and then, give us the final plans to make sure that we know what we're actually approving. So, thank you.
thanks for your time. All right.
Okay, item 7E, volunteer application review. Mike Fry.
Now you're on the hot seat,
Now
Mike.
you're on the hot seat, Mike.
Yeah.
You can. Come on over.
So we have a volunteer application. Mike Fry, who is at the hot seat now at the mic, so he can tell you what he wants to tell you about himself.
Well, I'll just cover kind of what's in the application, expand on it a little bit. My wife and I moved down here this last July and are full-time now. She owns the Painted Bear, and that was the main reason we moved down. We've got cabins here. We have 2 VRBO cabins. My wife and her sisters have one, and my wife and I have the other one. And she has the Painted Bear business, and so it got to be a job commuting back and forth to Parker. So we're now residents of Green Mountain Falls. And I was asked to consider this and thought about it a little while and thought it might be interesting. And I did a lot of volunteering in Parker and don't have anything to do now. So this will help give me something to do. I was, my career was in the farm credit system for most of my career. I was in the farm credit system for 31 years. And the farm credit system, for those that aren't familiar with it, is a network of farm lenders. It was a GSE. It was created by Congress in 1907, I believe. The first section of the farm credit system was. And it's a network of farm lenders that are actually farmer cooperatives. The farmers that borrow from the organization, take stock, and then are eligible to sit on the board. And so it's a network of very independent organizations. And I was in an organization for most of my career. I tried to do what a headquarters would do if Farm Credit had a headquarters, but it was all voluntary. And we did all their insurance for them and saved them about $25 million a year. We did some of their employee benefits on a nationwide basis so that people could have their retirement program portable. If they moved from one institution to another, their retirement stayed intact. And then we did some director training and management training and put together some purchasing programs so that farm credit institutions could show their farm credit ID and get discounts on things that each of them had to buy. One of them was fleet program for automobiles. And back when PCs were new, we got a program so they could buy personal computers cheaper and things like that. So I ended up the last 7 years of my career running a service organization. And prior to that, I did some, I was the corporate planning officer for that organization before I became CEO. And prior to that, had done some merger consulting. When I started with the Farm Credit System in 1971, there were 1,000 territories. When I retired 31 years later, there were 100. And that was a result of farmers realizing that the economies of scale worked a lot better if they merged with a neighbor and only had one CEO and one chief credit officer and so forth. So I did some merger consulting and facilitated planning sessions of the institutions in the farm credit system. So that's kind of my background. I've been actually volunteering at the Parker Task Force in Parker, which was a food bank. And it's an all volunteer organization, very well run food bank, served Parker, Franktown, and Elizabeth. And of course, moving out of Parker, I had to give up that volunteer job. So I'm back looking for a volunteer job. So that's why I'm here. Any questions?
You are here full time, correct?
Yes, we are here full time now. I'm going to take off and get out of the cold weather here for a couple weeks or so and spend a little time in California with my brother and then go to Arizona for a few weeks. But basically, we're here all year round. Excuse me.
So the process would be to, if the commission decides to recommend that Mr. Fry be on the board or on the commission, then it would go to the Board of Trustees at their next meeting for final approval.
Have you verified he meets the requirements in the code?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. We do have some requirements in the code since it's quasi judicial.
Okay, what are the requirements?
Just the full-time residency basically is the thing.
Yeah, this is our full-time resident.
Okay. And one of the things we used to look at is voting. Are you registered here?
You know, I don't think I'm registered to vote yet in this county. I got that yet to do, but I hadn't until November, so I haven't been hurrying on that, but
Okay.
I will if I need to.
Yeah, I would actually recommend that because that
Okay.
tends to seal any discussion or debate.
Okay.
All right.
Can I make a motion that we recommend that Mike Fry join the Planning Commission? Make that recommendation to BOT.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we recommend Mr. Mike Fry for inclusion into the Planning Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thanks. And we are, sorry to rush. I don't know if there's anything else on the agenda, but, we need to start a fire mitigation committee meeting here pretty quick. So,
I think we're at item, it's actually 8A, any old business code rewrite status. We're still moving along.
I haven't heard any updates from Nina, but reminder to all the commissioners to please provide feedback by the
February
14th.
14th. Any other business real quick?
Not for me.
Hearing none, let's go ahead and adjourn at 7:44.